All right, so we are recording. Tim has just made the Higher Ed Tech podcast server, and Adam is going to walk him through. And if I have any questions, I'll bring him up. Here we are. So this is kind of bonus content on the page, but if anybody wants to see that walkthrough process, here we go.
All right, so the first thing I've done, I created the server by literally hitting plus at a server and going through the steps. Very, very simple. I was surprised it was 3 clicks and type in a name. And then it included an image. So when I click on that image there for the Higher Ed Tech podcast, here you've got the information. I went to my friends and I invited my friends by simply clicking on invite. Found out that I can take this link here, I can copy it, and then provide that out so people can just join it very quickly. They don't have to go through they don't have to know me, which we're going to include in the show notes so that you guys can join us.
Tim, really quick, you're doing a great job so far.
Yep.
As a new user. I'm so impressed. I think, though, just one of the common mistakes we'll see people do is that they don't edit the invite. And so it will expire and they'll think that they'll send it out in an email and then it won't end up working for them. So when we were going through this, we did edit this whole link to make sure that anybody could join at any point, right? If you want to show them how we did that too.
Absolutely. So here it is. It says right now, it says my invite will expire never. And I set that by going here to expire after. And I set it to never. And then max number of users, I set to no limit. And then I click on generate a new link. And afterwards, it comes back to this page. And now you can take a look and see that particular link. So great point, Adam. Thank you for reminding me, because yes, I didn't know about that. So the next
it's a mistake I still make to this day, sometimes generating links. So I had to say it.
Hey, good time to have it in there. So the next thing wanted to do is we're looking at the people and we wanted to talk about roles and stuff like that, because for instance, in this case, Brent, I would love Brent to be able to do anything I can do in this and stuff. And so creating roles was the next step we wanted to take a look at. So Adam, what can we do?
So this kind of like spawned, this is so much fun too. I love that we're doing this. So this kind of spawned because you wanted to start generating different roles and different permissions. And so this is kind of the barrier of entry to kind of get past to really engage with Discord. So the way we do that is up on the top left where it says the Higher Ed Tech podcast is the name of the server, has a drop down. Yeah, right there, exactly. So then we would go to server settings from there. And we would then go to the roles, which is just the second tab under overview on the left.
Yeah, I see that at the same spot. I can change the icon if I want, upload a new image. It looks like I might even be able to change the server name. Would that be the case?
Yeah, totally. Definitely.
Excellent.
And those images can get pretty fun. Some servers will have like a GIF that plays when you hover over it. So it'll have like a little earthquake effect or something that has to do with their company. But
nice.
Yeah, definitely important. So yeah, to find the roles though, on the left side, if we're good with that last tab, the way we would develop these roles is you'd come into here and so where it says at everyone, those are going to be your permissions for anyone who's in the server. So it's kind of like the permissions you would have for just like a basic person entering your community. So just keep that in mind. But to develop a new role, we would then click the plus button. Yep, exactly. And then we can name the role, we can change the color and just like take a look at. So I guess we're developing like a moderator role. Is that what's going on here for Brent?
What do you think? What's a good title?
I think host works for the podcast, right?
That works.
So what are you looking to do with this role, Tim?
Oh, well, first we got to pick a color, some sort of bright color. We're blue and white. This is probably as good as we can get.
Yeah.
All right. So this would be somebody who can basically do anything on this server. So it would be Brent and I would probably be the two people in this role at this point.
And so one of the important things is like to ask yourself, do you want this role to be displayed in the server? Like when people enter, should this be a distinguished role or should it be a role that's not so hidden? That's the display role members separately from online members would be checked. And I think you would want to show off like, hey, Brent's a host, it's a major figurehead of the community. So I would definitely check that. Allow anyone to mention this role. I think we want to keep that on unchecked because that's going to have to do with pings. And maybe we could find other ways to ping Brent. And so one of the fun features though is the one that you saw right under the custom colors, the view server as role. This is one that I've become more familiar with lately. And that's, if you click that, it will actually pretend that you are that role and you can look at the server through those eyes.
Okay.
And so if you want to ensure that maybe you're setting up a role for like your students, you could see, okay, I'm going to make sure that they see these channels. So, and then the way you get out of that is on the top left, it says back to roles and settings. Yeah.
This is basically like the Canvas see student view or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what it looks like.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a whole plethora of options down there though to check out. Let's see. I think we want to give Brent. Oh wait, right now we're hovered over everyone. Let's make sure that we're selecting on the top left. That we're clicking the role. Oh, it didn't.
Actually, it didn't save it.
Oh no, it didn't save.
I didn't hit save.
Huh. That's kind of weird. I feel like it should have saved. Maybe it's because you're in the browser and not the app.
Okay. Oh, it says save changes.
Yeah,
at the bottom.
Cool.
All right.
So, yeah, we definitely, yep, agree with all this.
So that's another point. I'm doing this completely in my browser. I'm not doing this in the app. And there is an app that I imagine makes some things easier.
So basically, like, what I'm seeing here is a lot of control over what happens inside of the rooms. Pretty granular at this point, right? Like lots of different things that you can do. If you are, if people are misbehaving or doing all sorts of things, you can really kind of go in there and figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, you can deafen members and mute members. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So why don't we make a channel for just the hosts? So let's we saved this, so I think we can close out of this.
I just want to see the difference here with everyone. So this is what it looks like for everyone. And you see that these are the default settings. So they can view a channel, they can create invites, change nicknames, but they're not really, they can't manage anything. They can't kick members, ban members. They can send messages. So it looks like they're able to do things, but they can't go to that next level of kicking anybody out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they can participate, but they can't really control much, right?
Mm-hmm. And we can definitely open up their opportunities to control things in specific, so like categories and channels. So I think that's what we should do next, is maybe make a channel just for hosts, so you could see how we can use these roles and change the permissions within the channel. So we could close out of this by right on the top right, it says escape. Yeah, we close that. And where it has it says, okay, I guess a good way to put this is it says text channels, and then under that it says general. So text channels is actually a category. So I believe if you right click, no, we need to, actually it's because I'm in your server. 1 second. If we right click, so if we right click on that whole zone on the left side, actually just under it. So actually right click that whole zone, create category. So this would be a category that we could create for just the hosts, and only the hosts will see this. So we could say hosts only or something.
And make it private?
Private selected.
Or does that matter?
Yeah, I don't normally use this functionality. I prefer to go straight into the settings. But I think that would work. Sync channels in this category will automatically match to the setting. Oh, yes, let's do that. Let's do that for this specific instance.
Yeah, because it's saying only select members and roles will be able to view that the category even exists.
Oh, I guess so it's that's where we could type host, the role, I believe. Would it actually bring it up? No members. Oh, we haven't set anybody's roles as hosts. We need to set Brent's role, of course.
All right, so let's cancel out of that.
Mm-hmm. And so the way you would set the role is right click. Yep. You could do that too. Actually, I don't normally do it that way.
Hey, I'm a host.
Let's go.
Wow, that's fast.
And Tim,
so,
do you set yourself as host, or Adam, when Tim does that, how, I mean, since he opened it, is he not at the top level?
well, he has the crown next to his name, which signifies that he's the owner of the server.
Okay.
And and that's what that means. But by giving him this role, we could show off that he is indeed a host, or we could just even have a different role called administrator or server owner, and then we could show it off that way too.
Okay.
But now that we have people with the role, we could go into and create the category. I wonder if it's gonna. You know what? Let's. I don't normally do this, and I see why I don't normally do this. Let's not check that box really quick. Let's go back and uncheck that box and just create the category. Yeah, let's just perfect. And now we can go into the channel the permissions by right clicking it, and then you can edit the category. And now we go to permissions, and then let's see. Yes, and then right where it says yep, you're all over it. I feel like I don't even need to say anything.
So here I should be able to remove this.
Exactly. You could cross out view channel, and that would stop anybody who comes in from viewing it immediately unless you granted them the host role. I think just view channel for this would be enough.
Because this is only for hosts, so if they can't see it, they can't do anything else, right?
Exactly.
So host. So you do need to specifically grant permission.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So this part with like adding reactions is something I'm kind of currently exploring, where I have channels where only certain students are allowed to talk, and then the rest of the students are allowed to add reactions. So they get to see their leaders have conversations and kind of vote on the things that they like with their reactions.
Okay.
Actually, it looks like. No, okay. At the bottom of the host one, it said that I could remove host. So
Wait.
I wanted to see if
the host can remove host.
If I could remove everyone from that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So now we can kind of close out of this, and we should now have it so that I can't see anything, and I guess you can't really see my screen. But if you
actually, according to what we were talking about before, if we go up to roles.
Exactly.
Let's see, where was roles? Server settings, roles. I should be able to act like this person, view server as role, and I cannot see that that's there.
Perfect.
There you go.
So I would be looking at it like you. So that's actually really cool. So up here, the server settings, which again, this role does not have access to the server settings. But if I go back to the role setting, now I can get in and I can do that view server as role. Nice.
Yeah, I find myself constantly going through there when I'm making changes because I'm worried that I've made mistakes because it gets a little complicated. This feature is like super great for figuring that out.
Yeah, there's tons of control in here, which is good to know, and it'll be good for our conversation about the concerns people have. Yeah. So
yeah.
The fun thing about the roles too is here I can even send it to you now. I can specifically host. So let's say that I needed a question that only a host can answer. I say, hey, here's my question, and you will then have something that's highlighted, and that will also ping you. You see the red notification up on the servers. So this will let you know, oh yeah, now you're responding back to me. And it should also make a noise.
Yeah, but I've got the sound turned off on this for Zoom. So
And so we could go into the category too and make different channels. So that's just gonna be, you could right click it, I think, or you could left click the create channel.
so here we could do a channel for everybody. Actually, that was channel type here, text channel. Does it matter the text channel versus the voice channels?
Yeah, so when we create a channel under a category, it could
Mhm.
be different ones. We could see that now. Like let's go into host and do it. So if we create a channel in there, we could choose what kind we want from here. If we boosted the server, I think we would also have an option to get an announcement channel. That would have a little loudspeaker icon with it too, and has some functionality there. But yeah, you could determine any type of channel under the category.
And boosting means like paying for the channel or something, or paying.
Yeah, it's more like a premium service.
So because this is under that host category, I don't need to make it private or anything like that because it's automatically going to be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see a little lock icon on there too. So it means,
yeah, it's got a little lock there. Cool.
So what do you think you would want to do next with this Discord server, Tim?
Well, that leads to a lot of questions of that I think we're going to want to get into in the podcast of like how would this work out? What would make sense as far as going forward and doing something like this? So
structural organization is something you have to plan out, right? Like like for the show, if we're having people come on to be like, hey, come communicate with us, give feedback on previous episodes or add on to ideas that we talked about or those types of things. So we might want to have different types of channels for different purposes, I guess. Maybe promoting new shows, like, hey, these are the new shows coming out. When we when we say they're out, then we could post them in there for people to know about. But then we would also want to have just open channels for conversation. It's a whole structural consideration on what you're looking for and how you're trying to allow people or create a community for people to interact with each other, right?
I think it's important too to kind of like categorize the conversations, because when you start to have a lot of cohesion and friction, things can get lost, and so it's nice to have all these different categories. I mean, I like the ones that you're making here, Tim. Like new show ideas, maybe suggestions you could get from people who jump in to the server. I think another important one is an announcements channel, and we could do that with just making a text channel for now, and then make it so only hosts can type in there, and then that will always keep your announcements at the front.
So here are announcements and permissions, and I assume.
So we could first turn off everybody's ability to type in that. So we could left click on their, oh, nice. So, oh, that's right. So syncing will sync it with the category. So the
okay, so it turned it back.
Yeah.
So basically the whole old concept of inheritance. So here, do I need to go ahead and turn these on?
You could,
or are they by default on?
I think that you could, they're not by default on. I think you did give permissions of everything. But I do always kind of just check everything on a channel just to make sure. And then for everyone, we can make it so that they can read the message history and view the channel, but not type. Oh no, we want them to view it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that way.
And then send messages, no, because by default they should be able to send messages on the server.
Okay, they should be able to add reactions though.
I agree. I think it's a great idea.
But does he have to hit the red X to turn that off, or what is?
I believe so. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to hit red X on the send messages part. It's just near the bottom there, second up from the bottom.
Oh, we wouldn't want any of these.
Those could be off
Oh,
by
that
default.
could be used. Well, they're on the slash. That's the question there. So send messages, no.
No embedding, no, yeah. So that makes sense. Okay. Because this is hosts only, right? We're just trying to say like what can the hosts announce and everybody else can read and give a reaction.
So read message history though.
Yeah, and that should work.
Okay. It's not
No.
a private channel.
Now back on here, Adam, is it possible to move the order of these channels, like to move announcements up to the top, or
Absolutely. Tim's already over it.
none?
I learned a long time ago that sometimes it's nice to just try it.
With
Mm-hmm.
exciting exclamation mark too.
Well, so what I'm seeing is when you get the exclamation mark, it gives you tips.
Oh, okay.
And so just hit got it on that. But so basically now announcements is here, but Adam, for instance, you're not going to see the announcements unless you go to that channel, correct?
Yes.
Or would you see the announcement? Okay.
So I think, well, it depends on what I've had open last in the server. So if I was in the general channel and then I went into another server, I would come back to your server and I'd still be in the general channel.
Mhm.
But I still have access to the announcements. And let's say that you wanted to at everybody on the server, you could type at everyone, and then it will ping everybody in the
Everybody.
server.
Okay. So let me ask this. This would be a great one. Is there a way that we can have a page up at the top or a note up at the top that says, here, come in, share with us your ideas for new shows, and we'd love to, we'd love to learn more what you're interested in or something like that. Is that what this edit channel would do and the channel topic?
Like a starter page type of thing.
Exactly. You would definitely type it there. Sometimes people also kind of have channels that just have one message that nobody else can type in that kind of details the whole server and how to use it and what channels are for what. And you can even link them to the channels and explain what they're used for. So that's another way to kind of guide conversations. But just the name alone should kind of be enough to direct people how to involve themselves with a channel.
Right. But I've also learned that if you can say something, people like that. They may never read it. They'd like to see something in there. Kind of like a description on a quiz. Everybody knows the name of the quiz is chapters 1 through 4, but putting in the description and saying this is a quiz on chapters 1 through 4 still helps people. So, okay, nice.
So can we briefly talk before we kind of wrap up? This is our intro level for anybody who's trying to build something here, but can we briefly talk about the voice channels there? How would we use that differently, or what's going on with that, Adam?
So same thing kind of applies. So you could right click the channel and kind of set the perms so that, let's say this was a place that you didn't want others speaking, then you could mute specific roles and open up others to have ability to talk. We could also have one, which is kind of a cool feature. This is more for esports though, which was the priority speaker role. So if two people are talking, one person will talk over the other. We can get into that in the podcast and why that's great for esports.
Yeah.
But I don't think it does too much for education because you don't really want to be promoting others talking over others. It's better to just like listen.
Is this just live talking, or is it like walkie-talkie style where one person talks, it records it, and leaves it for people to listen to later?
No, so this is where we could just have a live conversation, just like what we're doing right now with Zoom. So
Okay.
if we jumped into there, we could do that. We can even share our screen. You see on the bottom left of the exactly, you could share your screen and actually choose which windows you want to share or your whole screen, just like Zoom does. You can even go live with a video and share. Brent's getting in there. I feel like I have to get in there now too. Let me mute myself though, because I don't want to double up. But yeah, you could even share your screen. For instance, I can even share my Yeah, I can go live. You can take a look at what I see by left clicking on my name. And it looks like it comes up automatically. And then watch stream.
So this is okay.
Oh, you got your video on. Nice, Brent.
Yeah, I'm doubled up here, I think.
Whoa. Exactly. So you can now see my screen, the
Okay.
different servers that I'm in here, and you know that's great for functionality too and sharing it so often that we can get into a conversation, be like, why don't I just share my screen and you just go live? The only problem with this, and we'll probably talk about this in the podcast, is that this is limited to 50 people watching as of right now. Hopefully that will change soon. And then sharing video, I think, is limited to 25 people.
Sharing actual video or sharing screen, something that you've got on your screen video.
So sharing the screen is just 50, and then having your camera video set up is just 25. I think only 25 people can go live together, and then the server starts to get overran.
The reason I ask is because so many people don't realize that there can be a difference between it. They think that if they're doing something on their screen, that's video versus them video camera video. So that's why I wanted to break that and separate it to make sure we got it. Excellent.
Cool. Well, we got a channel. We got a server. Sorry,
we got a server and a couple of channels.
Yeah.
Beautiful beginnings.
So now we can invite people into this. Adam, you're in, so that's good. And if people wanted to come and look and see and kind of interact, then please come join. The link is on the HigherEdTechPodcast.com. I guess is the easiest way for people to find it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for this, Adam. This has been educational, and now I look forward to the show.
Yeah, I'm ready to get into it. Let's do it.
Cool.
Excellent.